So, our first speaker today, our opening speaker, Professor Owen Barr. I have known Owen Barr professionally and personally over a number of years now. Owen is a professor in nursing and paramedic science and was instrumental in creating the curriculum for the paramedic science degree here in Ulster University. He's an exceptional man and he's a great speaker, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome Owen Barr to the stage as our first speaker of the day.
Hey, now that he said all that, I'm trying to work out what he means. So this is a bit unusual for me, and many of you have been victim of the same thing in a positive way. Gary says, will you do me a talk? Will you do me a favour? And you say, no. I don't really fit. And he says, no, I'll come and talk to you. And then you end up saying yes. So I'm here. My day job is as a professor of nursing and intellectual disability at Ulster University. And this is the first time in a very long time I'm doing a presentation that's two bits date and no notes. So that'll become clearer. So let's have a think about, if you want, the day job and what really drove me to come along and encourage me. So I've been very fortunate in that I've been in nursing over 40 years. I absolutely love nursing, and I've been teaching in nursing for more years than I want to remember, so it must be coming up on 30 years as well. And more recently, as Gary said, I got the chance to develop the new paramedic program and bring it to Magee. I really enjoy that. And one of the things that I really enjoy about it most is I am way beyond what I ever expected to do and way beyond whatever any of my teachers ever thought I could do. So that actually gives me quite a bit of pleasure. And education to me, and there's a similarity in some of the stuff we're talking about, is they actually lead out. It's to bring forth. It's not about the teacher being the smart person. It's about the teacher's job and helping people to grow. That's, to me, what education is about. And one of the ways I judge the success of my education is when my students know more than I do. So actually, I find it really, really positive that my current line manager was one of my students. So my boss is somebody I taught a number of years ago, and I think that's brilliant. So it is, because it's worked, and that's what the purpose of education is. And everybody should learn, including the teacher. And one of the things that I've learned over the years, and one of the points that I really want people to take away from today, is I've had the experience and the pleasure of working with quite a number of people who've come through addiction journeys, who've then gone into healthcare. I've met them in nursing, I've met them through colleagues in social work, I've met people even on our new paramedic program, and Gary was one of the students. And what has really stood out for me is when they bring that learning, and when they bring that vulnerability, and they bring that understanding, they are absolutely brilliant at what they do. So they have almost a sixth sense to spot things, to see things, to interpret things that we all need to learn. And I've had the advantage in many ways and the pleasure of seeing people do that. And recently, even somebody realizing in a house that they were visiting as a student that there was something not right with the number of medicine tablets that were sitting around, the number of packets. And this person realizing, well, this person is either not taking the medication they should be taking, or is taking too much of one type of medication because there's too many boxes of one kind and not enough of the other. And that actually led them to make really important discoveries and provide support for that person. But that was only possible because they had been through a journey in their own mental health, and at one stage had been a detained patient in hospital because they were so unwell. And they brought all of that and applied that to their course. So to me, that's a big part of the hope. That's a big part of the more than. You bring it and you bring it along, and you take it forward. So the other part of this presentation is a bit where we forget about Professor Barr for a minute, and let's just say my name is Owen, which anybody who's in healthcare will have seen these badges. And I want to come at this from a slightly different perspective of resilience and what I have learned over a number of years. So more than that, so what's my big issue? What's my concern? I've had a number of things that have occurred over the years. Two in-laws who died by suicide and had a very unhealthy relationship with alcohol that contributed to that. In fact, there's three if I count a father-in-law. I had a very, very close friend of 20 years that we run marathons and half marathons together, and we used to joke that we'd probably seen more of each other than we did of our wives because we spent so much time. We also used to joke that very good marathon runners normally have young children. Running long distances is just an excuse for peace and quiet. So that made us quite good runners. But this person was a nurse, and they were a mental health nurse, and they phoned me up one morning when they were working in England to tell me that they were about to take their own life. And they did. And a bit in my head is, how did I not spot that? No, how did I not know that? And then I had a son who died at 15. And big shout out to Search and Rescue, because Adam drowned in the river. And Search and Rescue searched for 6 weeks until we found him. And if Adam hadn't been out drinking with his friends, he probably wouldn't have made some of the decisions that he made. And he probably wouldn't have ended up in the river. So, the voice in my head, how does it happen that two of his brother-in-laws died by suicide? How does it happen that he didn't spot his mate having so much difficulties? What do you mean his son was out with 15-year-olds and they were drinking? How does that happen? What sort of guy is he anyway? No. And then my big worry was at this stage, when Adam died, I was ahead of school for nursing. So my biggest fear was I was not going to be able to do what I'd done. I was going to be, and I had heard people saying, well, he used to be okay, but he's had a difficult time, you know. Not as good as he used to be. And that was a bit in my head. That was a bit that I was carrying around. So what I want to do is talk a bit about what have I learned, or what am I still learning? Because it's, as many of you will know, it's about adaptation. I have a real difficulty with the idea of acceptance. Acceptance gets you to the stage where people think, and I will hear people saying, never really accepted what happened. We shouldn't accept what happened. We adjust to what happens. If you're coming from the mindset of accepting what happens, then people lead themselves into believing at some stage it doesn't matter. You've accepted it and you move on. It always matters. Your history always matters, but you keep adjusting. So how have I helped myself adjust, and how have I been helped by other people? So the first thing I had to learn, and I learned this a long time ago in the 1980s as a newly qualified nurse, because I've always been a bit difficult. You speak to any of my teachers, speak to any of my friends, I've always been a bit difficult. I always find it very difficult to accept the status quo and not to sort of push things a wee bit, just to see. So the first thing I had to learn was what were my crumble points. For people who aren't familiar with the concept of crumble points, because we all have them, and I do this work with students because it's really important. So things that cause you to react disproportionately to something that's just happened. Triggers, people will often refer to. And they can be from any of your senses. Sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste, and a left-out sound. And I only noticed that I had left-out sound. So that song, that noise, that means something to you, doesn't mean anything else to anybody else who's in that room, but it's in your head, and now you can't get past it unless you do something positive about it. May involve a single or combination of senses, can have an immediate impact on the person's ability to continue a task. I find myself in meetings, very formal meetings, and hearing something, and we'll come to it, and very quickly introducing a 10-minute break in the meeting. So it is because I couldn't concentrate any longer, because I just heard something that nobody else in the room had heard. So it is, and I in the past, would have attempted to struggle on, but now I think we're just taking a quick break. And our people in the room now know what that sound is, and they say, yeah, we'll have a quick break. So it is. So I have been blessed in many ways by having people around me that I've been able to talk to that are understanding and will take some of the weight and will also come along. Because any of you that are here as health professionals, or any of you know health professionals, we've got a particular challenge in that we are very good at giving advice and very, very bad at following it. We have a different kind of body. It's not the same as everybody else's. So we give all this good advice to everyone else. But actually, when it comes to someone saying to us, we're very poor at following it. So, classic example. I spent a number of years as a bereavement counsellor, working with crews who were very supportive of me and my family after Adam had died. So, a lot of time for them. But in saying that, it took me 3 years to go to counselling. And I was a bereavement counsellor. And it got to the stage where I was in difficulty and thought, you need to do something now. And I can remember ringing him up and saying, need to make a referral. Who is it, Owen? And I said, me. And there was an intake of breath, and I said, you need to get a counsellor. And they were brilliant, and they done it. But I also needed to become the person to be counselled, because what I had made the mistake of is for several years, I attempted to do it myself. And then I learned that's probably not a good idea. The level of response can be affected by other internal and external factors, how you're feeling at the time, or things that are mounting up. And these are real experiences for people. These are not things that you feel them. You just, they're there. They're not things that you sort of just say, pull yourself together and you'll be all right. These are real. At times it can be quite debilitating. And we all have crumble points. So we all have triggers in different ways. So the important thing is to know what these are and to be able to respond and adapt to the situation. Put the 10-minute break in the meeting. Take a quick breath. Go for a walk. Try and change what you're doing. So what are mine? Getting blamed for something in the wrong for something I didn't do. There's a story behind that, but let's say I don't take well. And from that, I haven't taken well to getting blamed for something I didn't do. But I also had a grandmother I loved dearly who used to say, when you see that young fella, slap him. Because if he's not coming from doing something wrong, he's on his way to go and do it. And she was probably right. People discriminating against people who are vulnerable or when they're vulnerable, and a lot of my background and my work is with people with learning disabilities, so I have a real trigger with that. People taking unnecessary risks around rivers. I have friends who constantly go out in boats and they don't have any life jackets on them, so I keep saying, I hope you can swim maybe 3 miles in freezing cold water. And I refuse to go out in the boat with them. I say, no, I'm not going out. And recently I needed a hand to take it out of the water. I said, no, you shouldn't have a boat in the water. I'll take it out, but not help me put it back in. So it is. So, and that's just me. And I know that I am irrational about it, and I know I'm in their face about it, and I know I need to go and walk away sometimes, or else it just becomes an unnecessary debate. The sound of a Euro chapter. In particular, a Euro chapter. Not 118 or 119, not the big Irish Coast Guard helicopter, but I can hear a police helicopter before most of our people are going to hear the police helicopter. I can be sitting in a building and I can tell there's a police helicopter outside. And I've got better over the years to tell you, well, that police helicopter is over one of our housing estates because there's difficulty, or that police helicopter's on the river. And if that police helicopter's on the river, I leave the office. I just need to go somewhere, because if I don't get up and walk, I'm going to focus on the helicopter, and nobody else hears the helicopter. So it is. And that's a crumble point. And these things are important to acknowledge. And I also know that if I'm tired or I'm cheesed off at something, then these things affect me more. So looking after myself is something that I've had to learn to do. So how have I done that? And these are, one of my worries about coming to this, I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. What I'm saying is these are the things that have helped me. So the first thing was I asked for advice. And I put a former schoolmate in a really difficult situation just after Adam was found, when he was in my house and his son had died several years earlier, and as he was leaving, I said, I need to ask you a question because there's only one I can ask. And the question was, what the hell happens next? And his answer was brilliant. His answer was, people will tell you that time helps, but unless you can have patience, no amount of time will ever help. And we got into a conversation. And the patience was patience with yourself when it's taking you 3 times longer to do something you used to be able to do without thinking. Patience for yourself when you can't concentrate. Patience for yourself. And it was all about patience for yourself, not patience with other people. And I let it roll around in my head and roll around in my head. And for the Irish scholars among you, this is Ogham script. So it is, and it spells patience. And just to help me, and I have it with me today, and I wear it on my right arm, I have a bracelet with patience on it in Ogham. And I don't wear it all the time. But if I think I'm going to have a challenging day or a day where I need a bit of help, I put this on. And Adam's signature is engraved on the back of it. So it is. So, patience is the first thing. And one of the big challenges for that, for friends and for colleagues, is people get tired sometimes, and other people move on. So you need people around you that are going the same journey as you and realize that you were making progress and now you've fallen back. So, no, I have brilliant colleagues who I used to say helped out a lot when all I was doing was taking up space in the office. I wasn't doing anything useful, I was going into work. But actually, my productivity used to dip up and down and up and down. But there were people around that said, that's all right, it's okay. So it is. And I was the boss at the time. So it is. But that was okay. I introduced Gary to this. Anybody know what that is? This is going to tell your age. A weeble. So what do weebles do? But they don't fall down. So weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. So this is Weeble, which is my wife's one, because I left mine in the office. This sits on my desk in the office. And if I'm having a bad day, I just knock it. No matter what you do with it, no matter how far over you put it, it's going to come back up again. So you're allowed to wobble. So you are. This is what Weebles do. And this is a really useful thing to have sitting on your desk every so often. You just go, and no matter how hard you hit it, no matter what you do with it, it's going to wobble, and then it's going to slow down, it's going to ground itself, and it's going to stop. So it is. So we're all allowed to wobble. So it is. And we just roll with it, wobble, but it's going to be okay. So it is. And we've got to believe that. So weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. I actually prefer this one. I got some of these recently. I actually bought some of these recently just out of curiosity. These are the 1970 Airfix ones. But when they arrived, I thought, these are so much more sinister looking than what this one is. So it is. And they were kids' toys. So they were. But now they're just a wee bit sinister looking. So, there was a very good presentation by Mike Stars and TED Talk at one stage, and he said we should be more like a Weeble. And it really stood with me. The other thing is 3 secrets, and this is another TED Talk, and these are things that really stood with me. 3 secrets that resilient people know. They know that shit happens. Bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people. It just happens. So it is. But they've learned to switch their focus on their attention to the good. The focus on things that you can change. I can't change a lot of things that have happened. So it is. And the bit that really stood out for me in this presentation is don't lose what you have because of what you've lost. Focus on what you have and focus on what you can change. If you focus on what you've lost, you're going to lose what you have now. So it is. And that's a real challenge sometimes when you get preoccupied. And you've got to say, no, hold on, I'm going to back to now, and let's focus on now. The key question that grounds me most of the time, and I repeatedly ask myself, and it comes from this presentation, is what I'm doing helping me or harming me? And that can be a small thing. No, not training as much as I used to, not doing this. Maybe I was training too hard, all sorts. It's just a useful check every so often to say, is this helping? So it is. Is this the right thing for me at this time? So it is. And I'm the only one that can answer that because I know whether it's helping or not. Or people may think it's a really good idea. Or people say, get really fit. You should go back to the gym. You used to do a lot of stuff, go back to the gym. But if I'm back swimming and doing stuff that actually I used to think I could do or I could do, but I can't do now as a 60-year-old, or it gets to a stage where I'm swimming and I'm not enjoying it because I'm 2 seconds slower than I was the last time, it actually got to the stage where I had to swim and take my watch off. The only way I could enjoy was swimming was take my watch off. Just swim. Just chill, swim. Stop competing. So it is. And I was only competing with me, and I was never going to win. A 60-year-old me is never going to beat a 30-year-old me, but it took me a while to learn that. So that is. Focus on what you can do. What can you achieve? Set yourself targets that are realistic. So that is. So if we go back to more than that, and through all of these things that have happened, I've had to ground myself and value the fact that I'm a son and a father and a husband and a friend. I'm now a novice beekeeper. I think I am now a beekeeper because somebody said you had to get stung about 10 times before you could call yourself a beekeeper. So been there, done that, and I've got honey, so it seems to be working. I now see myself as a retired runner, and I follow all of the exploits of my son who lives in Australia to see if he can beat some of the times that I had at one stage, but I'm not going to go out and pound the roads anymore. I'm an aging motorcyclist. I loved motorbikes, and I drove them for many years. But again, an interesting thing, I got rid of my motorbike. And these are things, again, ask for help. I taught guys, got them ready for the advanced motorbike test. And then after Adam had died, I was riding my bike, and I didn't think I was as sharp as I was. I just wasn't. So I had connections with the Institute of Advanced Motorcyclists. I knew guys who were very proficient motorcyclists. I knew police motorcyclists. And we said one night, right, we'll go out on the bike. Probably shouldn't say this public. And I knew I had a cop behind me on his unmarked bike, so I knew we could push it just a bit. And we probably weren't going to get in bother, and we were on a wee back road. And when we got to the end of it, I said, right, what am I doing wrong? Because I didn't think I had done very well. And they said, you're absolutely inch perfect. You're doing nothing wrong. It's in your head. And I said, that's all I needed to know. I sold the motorbike the next day. Because if it was in my head, it was a risk. And then, several years later, I thought, God, I really miss motorbikes. So I am now a proud owner, and again shows age, of a 1981 Super Dream that sits in my garage. And as one of my colleagues who rides Harley Davidson says, they are neither super nor a dream one. But it sits in my garage, and I'm still a motorcyclist. And I'm finishing off what was started as a shed in Donegal and is rapidly becoming a house. So in the last 2 years, I've been an apprentice joiner, electrician, and a plumber, and a general labourer in dog's body. So why do I say this? Because when I get focused, there are things I can do. From a work point of view, 2 years ago, I got a National Teaching Fellowship. It was the only one awarded in Northern Ireland that year. There's things that you can do. The key bit is asking for help, and the key bit is, to me, these are the simple things I do. There's no big work that goes on in the background, and today isn't about theory, and it's quite refreshing to do a presentation that doesn't involve a whole lot of references. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day.